The books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is an executive advisor and systems convener, no other than Mr. Mark L. Vincent.
My pleasure to be with you.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Mark, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, the simplest things to say about me is that I enjoy having coffee with people as they're working through complex problems. And they're most often a business owner or a longtime CEO. And they're often looking at things like succession planning or business continuity, wanting their employees to have meaningful work for years to come. And that means there's some complication to get that done. And I'm often in the mix with those owners and leaders.
Mr. Mark L. Vincent, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about the succession and legacy. How do you define a true legacy beyond just financial wealth or business success?
That is a powerful question. Many people, when they hear the word legacy, think, yes, I want that because I want to be famous. And others think, I don't want that because I'm not looking to be famous and that would feel selfish. And so I don't want it. But legacy really is neither of those things. It's not something that you have to go get, and it's not something that has something to do with fame. It has to do with impact and influence. And you might think of yourself as a stone that's thrown into a pond when you are alive, and from your life and that stone throw go ripples. The ripples move out and they have influence on things and they affect other people. And legacy are where those ripples go and what they do. And when you are leading organizations, you are a little bit larger as a stone. And so you have more impact and more influence, and paying attention to it and trying to help it do the most good would be the kind of work we're talking about with legacy.
What's the difference between succession planning and a legacy building?
Hmm. Well, I like to make sure that if we're talking about succession planning, we keep that married to business continuity. So, continuity is to be able to continue next year also. And so, if someone is stepping away, they're going to retire, they're done, they're moving on to something else. The continuity is the ability for the succession work to keep the business going. And the legacy part of that is the impact or influence that that person has brought. So if some things in the culture or some of the policies or some of the business processes continue after a person has been there, that would be a mark of their legacy, the impact that they've left behind as the business continues.
Indeed, the business will continue for sure. So, how do so many successful people struggle with the concept of leaving a legacy?
Yeah. Well, when you are building a business, you are needing to control some things. You are trying to figure it out. You're putting a lot of effort to make something happen. And sometimes you get it done by grit and by not giving up. When you are moving into succession, you actually have to use some different muscles. You have to restrain yourself a bit more. You have to be able to hand things off to other people. You have to willingly let them succeed or fail, just as you had opportunity to succeed or fail. And so, one analogy we often use is running a race on a racetrack, like a relay race. So, if it's my turn to run and I'm leading this company, I'm going all out. I'm trying to stay in my lane. I'm trying to run with effectiveness and efficiency. And when I'm getting ready to hand off my baton to the next runner, now I have to be able to get off the track as I do that handoff without interfering with anybody. And so the succession part of the work is to be able to hand it off and get out of the way while cheering for my teammate, the next runner. And so there's a bit of an art to this, not just all out effort. There's a lot of self reflection and self awareness that's involved just as much as there's awareness of my team and my successor.
Very well said, Mr. Mark. Beautifully articulated. Let's talk about the succession planning essentials. What are the critical components most business miss in succession planning?
Yeah, well, if you like search for resources and do a little reading, one of the first things you'll see is start early, start now, start today. It's never too soon to start because continuity and succession are important, and it only takes one person removed out of the mix unexpectedly, and you're behind, and you're frustrated, and you're stuck, and business struggles to continue. So, making it a part of normal business process to plan continuity, to have a bench of people, to know who can step in when somebody else can no longer perform their work, is just a critical and best practice for a business. And one thing for sure is if you are responsible for the business, you're the owner, you're the CEO, and you're thinking, hey, I think I'm going to be done someday. I can see my end coming. You certainly want to have started your succession planning by then. Otherwise, the business will start to diminish during the transition and have to go through a lot more work to be able to build up and do more in the future. Many succession plans do not achieve their value because people stop paying attention. They take their hands off of their wheel, off of the roll. They do less than they did before, and they don't plan for the work that it takes to hand it off to someone else and to help them to accelerate into their new role.
Mr. Mark, how early should founders or leaders start planning for succession?
That's a great question. When you're starting, like you are founding the business, you're not just a founder some years ago, you are the person right now trying to give this thing life. Well, you need to kind of know what your end is in mind so that someone who can step in after you can take the next steps toward that vision. If you don't know what that is, it's tough to identify anybody else to step in and take the role. That being said, there's a habit we need from the beginning. There's a wonderful book out there called The Founder's Dilemmas, and it lays out. There was an article in Harvard Business Review before the book came out, or at about the same time, and it lays out these dilemmas that founders have. And if they don't solve them early, they're not going to be able to scale enough to succeed, let alone have a succession plan. And one of those is figuring out the delegation game right away, handing things off as quickly as you can to other people so that you can work on the business and grow the business. Otherwise, you get underneath all of the tasks and you're working in the business and you can't see your vision anymore. And if you try to both do the business as well as think about the business as the business grows, it will just keep cycling back, not able to be scaled, not able to succeed in the end. You have to make those choices early.
What's the biggest emotional hurdle in passing the baton to the next generation?
Well, there are a couple that show up, but I think the biggest one, or let's say the one I see the most frequently, has nothing to do or very little to do with running the business. It's the identity of the person. It's the question, who am I now? And feeling like you're failing or feeling um, lost, alone, isolated, unsure of who you are if you're not running this thing. Knowing that you can't anymore, maybe even knowing that you shouldn't anymore, but not having a life to go to and then therefore feeling alone and isolated. That's a very strong one.
Mr. Mark, let's talk about the family business dynamics. How do you navigate family dynamics when preparing the next generation to take over?
Well, that's a great one. So, a number of the clients I've worked with who have done this very well early figured out, are we a family business or are we a business that has some family members in it? And making that very fine distinction is very helpful because if this is a business that has family members in it, then family members have to perform like any other employee. They're not given any special designation or any special treatment other than the fact that they might get hired a bit more readily because you already know them and you already know their character. But all the policies apply to them. If you are a family business, the family's going to own it and the family's going to continue to own it. Then you have a little bit more of a dance where you have to figure out, what does ownership look like? What does this person's involvement look like? How do we find a place where they can meaningfully contribute, even if they don't have the skills to really run the business? And so, if they don't do that hard work, you end up with underperforming family members who become obstacles to the business's success, and that harms everybody. So, that takes honest and direct conversation, a discipline of doing it regularly. And then I'll just say one more thing, Daniel. The the rigor of having family meetings so that the family can speak with one voice to the business, and if the business has a board, can speak with one voice to the board, so that the board can speak with one voice to the business and the executives they've asked to run it. It creates a nice tight line of sight with everyone rowing in the same boat. When that sequence of conversations is not mutually reinforcing one another, then you have competing interests and you have political games that can harm the business long term. So, what you're hearing me talk about is discipline, rigor, self awareness, direct conversations, and doing all you can to reduce game playing and drama.
Mr. Mark, as executive advisor and system convener, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, my long term goals have largely been met. I'm privileged. I was able to grow an organizational development firm and start it as its founder, grow it up, mature it, sell my share of the practice, and then go just purely to this executive advising practice. So I'm in a spot where I get to have extra time. We might call it bonus time. And in doing this, the goals I would have now is to really bring love to the room where I am listening to people. And the people I want to be listening to are people who love the mission of their business and they love their people. That means we're going to do good work together. And so, as long as I'm able to do that kind of work, I'm in it. I enjoy it very much. I feel like it's all play and work and life mission all combined. So, I don't have any longer term goals than just to be able to do this as long as I can.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Mark, and looking forward for more success.
Thank you.
And what's your advice for founders who can find suitable successor with their family?
So, a successor within their family. I think there are two things. One is it's really good for that successor to get outside experience, to actually put a plan together. And there are many ways that this can get done, but where for 5 to 10 years they are working and getting a lot of skill and disciplines and different looks, opportunity to really figure out what they do the best, and to have more mentors and supervisors than just a family member, especially a family member that's a parent. It's really helpful if they get that external kind of experience. And then the other one is executivizing is a wonderful thing. And so, to have a mentor or advisor who is walking alongside that person throughout, helping them anchor their learning, articulate their learning, and to perhaps grow a little faster and a little bit more wisely, that's a wonderful investment to make in an up and coming successor.
And thank you for that advice, Mr. Mark. And can you please recommend the books or book that influenced your journey?
Yes, I really enjoyed the writings of E.F. Schumacher. He was a British economist, and some years ago in the 1970s is when he was the most noted for what he did. But he wrote a little book called Small is Beautiful. And he's writing about small business, small enterprise, the ability to make decisions and act with dispatch and to adjust based upon what you're learning. And he had no problem at all with businesses growing larger. But what he advocated for is that when you grow larger, you multiply and you create opportunities for other people to own their small businesses, as opposed to trying to grow it up in some great big monolithic organization that owns and dominates everything. And his comparison would be that at that point you become an elephant, And elephants are large and they're big and they might have a lot of beauty connected to them, but they're not very nimble. They're not able to make big adjustments because they dominate everything and they need a lot more space. So the idea of small, crafted type of work, smaller shops, many owners, many economic opportunities for many people. That's an idea that stayed with me, and he wrote very well, and it's a very small book and one I enjoyed very much.
Thank you for that recommendation, Mr. Mark. And let's talk about the building lasting impact. How can leaders ensure their vision outlives their
Mm,
tenure?
yeah, there's a lot we can't control. We can't make anybody do anything. So I think about it in reverse fashion. I can guarantee that there is no legacy or that any legacy I have is corrupt and mean spirited and harmful. That I can make sure happens. If I want to have an impactful, meaningful, beautiful legacy, it's going to come out of the consistency of my actions. It is going to come out of my growing as a self aware person. It's going to come out of my lifelong learning. And even then, there is no guarantee. And I learned this from my father. He used to say, you can make people say no to you, you can make sure that you fail. You can only try when it comes to success and people saying yes. So keep trying and keep giving opportunity for people to say yes. And along the way, someone will. So we're right back to grit and repetition and growth and continuing to do what you do well, knowing that some success is likely to follow and impact is likely to follow. You just can't predict it entirely where it will show up.
Mr. Mark, what's more important for legacy? In institutionalizing systems or developing people?
Oh, that's a chicken and the egg question, isn't it? Like, people are going to be in those systems, and the systems need to develop them. And as they develop them, then people will notice, hey, there's a way we can improve the system. So, in my work in executive advising, we often talk about the client with a capital C. And the reason we do that is to remind ourselves regularly, repeatedly, that people are inside of systems. They're in groups. There are individuals, yes, but we're doing the work at the intersection where the system and the person come together, and they're going to influence each other. So the systems have to be able to be good and be humanized enough that they develop people, and people have to develop themselves and participate in it well enough that they design elegant, wonderful, human-centered systems. So they do work with each other, and I don't want to just sit here and say both or it depends. But I want to see, if we're going to talk about humans, I want to see that they're thinking about systems. And if we're going to talk about systems, I want to make sure that they're humanized and not just consumers of human talent.
Indeed, very well said again, Mr. Mark. Very well said. And how do you measure the success of our legacy?
Wow. Well, I assume that for a lot of my legacy, I will no longer be alive and walking planet Earth. So it will come down to what others say later on. I get some windows on occasion. Someone writes me a really nice note and says, "Thank you for the conversation we had 10 years ago. It made such a difference." Or, "I really appreciate the connection that you made for me. You had no idea the difference that it made." Those are wonderful, wonderful gifts. But for the most part, the legacy is measured by what other people bear witness to. So it's the people around me. It's what they say. It's not what I say about myself. It's what others who I've had the privilege to walk beside will offer. When if they're ever asked about me, did you know Mark? What did you learn from him, or did you know the organizations that he helped to bring to life? What was your experience with them? What they say is the legacy. Even if I would disagree, even if I wanted it to be different, that's what it is, and that's what the measurement is.
Definitely. What non material aspects should everyone consider when planning their legacy?
Hmm. Non-material. So you're now down to who are you as a person? Your awareness of self, your contentment with self, your ability to be at peace with your relations. I've learned a lot of things in life through the loss of people. My first wife had cancer for 16 years. She had 19 occurrences before she passed away. And we were able to navigate all of that without having to file for medical bankruptcy. That's the big economic achievement in my life, is that we were able to come through that and not be bankrupt, because that's a vast amount of medical treatment when you pay your medical expenses. So what we learned was the real assets in life are family and friends, the people who will surround your bed when you lie down on a bed of suffering. That's the real measure. And that's not material nearly as much as it is relational. And so to have a rich fabric of people who you contribute to and who contribute back in your direction, that's the real estate that we leave behind.
And Mr. Mark, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in its fourth season as well, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Mark, what's the most common success and mistake you have seen, and how can it be avoided?
The most common succession mistake that I have seen and how it can be avoided would be the failure to get started. When it keeps being postponed, you build up a set of obstacles to overcome, like an inertia. You're kind of rooted in place and you don't have the habits to be able to delegate, to be able to draw off the expertise of others. So that's the one I see the most, is like we delayed too long to get underway.
Mr. Mark, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Well, thank you. My main website, where you it's like a gateway to some of the content that I'm doing, is marklvincent.com. Don't forget that middle initial L, but marklvincent.com. I'm happy to engage with anyone who wants to talk with me or correspond with me. And you can be assured I will be listening to some of your podcasts.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Mark L. Vincent, because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more empowering legacy to come, more and more empowering, well, advocacy to come. So, Mr. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
More to come, people. See you soon.